It's
All right, now we're live. Okay, so now we are live. We should be live, and
remember, there's always a lag. So
give us your comments in 2 minutes. Give us 2 minutes to have it not lag.
yeah, see what happens here. And I know.
In the meantime, I'll show up another card. Here's a Nick Ehlers rookie card. There you go. I did try and show up in silent motion a piece of Minnesota Wild card with a tag on it. That's kind of cool.
I did see that. That was really nice.
Yeah.
Does anybody want to buy a hairdryer? Okay, so this was sent to us accidentally. This accidentally showed up at our house via Amazon. I opened it up. I'm like, I didn't order a hairdryer. I went on there. I wasn't charged for this hairdryer. It had my name and address, and it didn't have a name and address of anybody else. We have 2 people viewing us now, Mike.
I wonder if a drone dropped it.
No. I'll take those drones out of the sky. I can't wait till they start flying. You see that drone? There's a thing that they're selling now that will make your house will somehow mess up the waves up above your house, and a drone won't be able to fly over it.
Really?
Yeah, it won't be able to remove.
So it's a drone blocker.
Yeah.
Okay, this is encouraging. There is no audio delay. There is no lip syncing problem.
This is encouraging
on the live feed. So
okay, so maybe this is just from my other.
Maybe your
YouTube account has reached its limit of videos or something. I don't know.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something about. I had that happen to me on another network on Blog Talk Radio. I wake up overnight and I go to schedule a show, and they're like, "Whoa! You've reached your limit of 30." And I'm thinking, when did you tell me I had a limit of 30 when I have 300 on here?
Yeah, I know that there are people that put YouTube videos out way more than us, so I'm not.
Yeah.
They change things overnight, these companies. That's the point.
Well, the funny thing was it came up differently in the blog. And I'm sure everybody's interested in hearing this, but I'm just going to
this is really exciting. I know. Well, basically, as long as you're hearing us fine, that's good.
Yeah.
So,
so far, if you're an Islanders fan, if you're watching the replay, they're only losing 3-0, so you can still watch this game.
Oh, man. All right, so should I go record this live?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, it's okay on YouTube. Excellent. Thank you, Earl. I appreciate the tweets that we're getting now. Because it helps a lot. And
I used to like your show, My Name is Earl, so thank you.
So as long as this is working fine, we'll stay with this for now. We'll figure out what the hell's going on. Even though, we spent a lot of time trying to get people to subscribe to the other channel. I don't want to think about that part of it. Let's just do the show. That's all that counts. What matters is you guys, not us. So we're going to make
the show must go on.
We're going to do the show. The show must go on, and we are going to make that happen now. We appreciate your help and support, and we know that you all subscribe to this channel. This is the channel we have to do in the future, but I don't think we will. I think we'll be figured out a way. But I'm going to go record this anyway, just because I'm worried about it not working right. Should I be?
I think you should be.
All right, so you guys talk about the World Series for 1 second. I will be.
Okay. Here's something I don't understand, Russ, about last night, because everything went the Cubs' way. They got 3 runs in the first inning.
Right.
Grand slam home run for Madison Russell. They're up 7-2 in the 7th inning, and Joe Madden brings in Chapman. Now, okay, if he brought in Chapman and Chapman pitched over 2 innings in game 5 to stay.
Yeah, he was 2 2/3.
2 2, so almost 3 innings. Okay,
the most in his career.
Right. So, and they had a day rest in between, but you're up 7-2. I understand that Cleveland had 2 guys on, and he got out of the inning. He ran to first base, just beat out Lindor at first base, and he supposedly hurt his ankle, but he was fine coming out the next inning. The problem was, why is he in the game in the top of the 8th or in the bottom of the 8th?
I'll tell you what.
Over 5 runs.
This is a manager afraid to make a mistake, because if he makes a mistake that loses the Cubs a World Series or perceives to lose the Cubs a World Series, he may never recover from that. And so he just figured, you know what? I'm going to do this, and I'll worry about tomorrow. And that's great. But now we are tomorrow, and Chapman's thrown a bunch of innings in the last couple of games. you don't know how effective he's going to be in the game that really matters.
Well, I mean, I understand that you have to manage the game that's in front of you, and if they lose, it's over with. And if Madden makes the wrong move, then he's the Grady Little. He's the Grady Little of Chicago.
But you could have waited till it's 7-5, like you said.
Well, not even that. But once, okay, and in this playoffs, you've had situations where relievers are being brought in the fourth or fifth inning. I get that. Everything has changed in the post Buck Showalter world of that wild card game. But the thing is, once you've shut that down, and you're in the bottom of the eighth, and you're still up 7-2. You bring them up for another inning. I don't get that. Then they get 2 more runs in the top of the ninth, and he brings Chapman out again. I mean, do you realize that you are going to need him in the ninth inning potentially of tonight's Game 7? I know that all hands are going to be on deck, and mark my words, you're going to see John Lester in the game tonight. You're going to probably see Arrieta again for an inning.
But the problem is that there's no way you could tell me he's going to have his best stuff. And when Chapman's a little off, we know that he loses a little bit of command, and he could walk guys, and maybe just he'll have the speed on his fastball will be the same, but the location won't be. And that's the worry. And so this is a manager managing scared. Terry Francona is still in the driver's seat, even though now it's a tied series. He's got the game at home. He hasn't burnt his closer. There's a lot of things that have gone his way, even getting tattooed last night. So I still have to believe that they're going to win. But I will tell you, and this has come from a lot of people, there's a part of me that's conflicted where I'm happy for either fan base that wins. They've been so downtrodden for so long, and I know fans on both sides of the coin, that I'm happy for either one of them. I'm happy that they both just got here, you know? So,
but I mean, right now, like I think either one of the fan bases are going to be heartbroken, obviously, if they lose this, especially Cleveland up 3-1.
Mm-hmm.
If the Cubs come back, I mean, to me, this smacks of 1979 when the Pirates came back from down 3-1. You know, that's the Willie Starr family, Dave Parker.
Yeah.
They had
hideous
uniforms with all the stars on the head. And they hadn't won a World Series since 1960.
Yeah, since the Mazeroski homer.
And they have not won since. But there was only a 19.
Who they beat in that game? Was that the Yankees?
Yeah, shut up.
Oh.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the Orioles. That's who they beat. Yeah, excuse me. Who did the Kansas City Royals beat last year, by the way?
That's okay. I'm over it. But clearly this took you by surprise.
Well, no, I was confused. I thought you were asking about whether it was Baltimore. You knew it was Baltimore they beat. Jeez. Anyway, so, and I forgot my point. No, but
Hello, Hockey World. Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, November 2nd, 2016.
I'm Michael Agello, and I have breaking news.
Beaver. That's all, folks. I'm Russ Cohen.
When news breaks, we fix it. I am Declan, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzCast on HockeyBuzz.com. We think. You're watching it somewhere. And
it's out there.
We're up to 21 viewers, so yeah.
Woo! It comes to you every Monday through Friday. And, whether it's 20 viewers or 10,000, we don't care. We just want to get this out because we've had issues, and it comes to you every Monday through Friday, Google willing.
We have a trade. We have a trade.
Word. We go ahead.
The Pittsburgh Penguins have traded goaltender Mike Condon to
I know this one, Boston.
The Ottawa Senators.
Yes.
For a draft pick.
Okay.
Now that I would assume that means, obviously, with the situation we talked about that nobody heard about with Craig Anderson, that they're going to give Anderson some time away from the team for a little while, and Condon obviously played over 50 games with the Canadians last year.
What's
Matt
do they say what the draft pick is?
It just said a draft pick. It didn't specify what.
Well, good. I mean, it's good. It's I know Pittsburgh and Boston's going to be ticked because Boston's been trying to get him from Pittsburgh for a while, and Pittsburgh knew that if they put them on waivers, Boston would grab him. That was something they couldn't put him on waivers. They were.
So am I to assume LA thinks that they're in good shape with Budai and company?
Apparently,
wrong about, but okay.
I mean, again, though, I will bring this up. Goalies can't score, but if you have the right goalie in there, it might give the team more confidence to score, and I think that's the problem with the Kings.
I think that is the case, and the Kings were, the Kings had a tough game last night, but they've managed to weather the storm pretty well. I mean, we all kind of said that. I think the feeling with the Kings was that if they could stay around 500, Jonathan Quick, they'd be okay. Because when Quick came back, he would do the Jonathan Quick thing in all likelihood, and win 10 games in a row or something like that, and just take them into the playoffs. But that is the feeling, at least, right? So whether or not that happens, of course, is another story. But I think that this is a good move by Ottawa, and Ottawa, who goes into Edmonton and beats Edmonton. I mean, just Ottawa continues to play really good hockey.
They do, and I give Pierre Dorion a lot of credit. He scouted a lot of these guys. He's brought them through the system. It's early in the year, though. We do have to stress it's still early.
Boucher, obviously, it may not. Boucher, yes, their coach, right? Boucher.
Yes, Guy Boucher. Yeah.
Why does that sound wrong to me? Boucher. I'm thinking, why is it? I know his name's Boucher. I'm like, why it sounds wrong to me. So anyway, sorry, so many technical issues. I'm totally out of my.
This is a bad karma day. That's.
If I could fit this helmet on my head, which we proved I can't, I would. All right, we should wear my Mad Hatter hat. All right, so anyway, all right, so Boucher, we have proven. Like I said, a Guy Boucher. Thank you. Is I know my coaches is there's 30 of them. It's a lot to know. It's a lot to know. A lot to remember. 30 coaches.
Who's the coach of Las Vegas?
No one. I know that.
That's a scoop.
No one. They're gonna be self-taught, that team.
Oh, okay.
So they're gonna do in-home.
They're gonna homeschool.
Home hockey school. Yes. But anyway, that's what you do.
The Islanders are down 4-0, just so for the live updates.
Are they really?
Oh my goodness.
Anyway,
so I
want to talk about something. I want to talk about something else. Okay, so
let me just the funny thing is, I mean, it's an understandable move for Ottawa, but it's a strange move because they were one of the teams that needed the goaltender, but I argue of the three that had both of their goalies out, they were the one I thought that were least likely to go out and get the goaltender.
The Hamburglar really was just a flash in the pan. I mean, is this what we're looking at now?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hammond. I mean, Mr. Hammond, right?
He was a flash in the pan. Yes.
He's a backup goaltender, but
the fact that they're not even willing to go. I mean, he was just 2 years ago. He was unbelievable. Got them into the playoffs. Now they're not willing to give him the.
They rode the hot hand, and that's understandable. But they gave him. But the contract that they gave him was basically a backup goaltender contract.
Right. No, and that's a good backup contract.
Yeah, he's a fine backup, but that was lightning in a bottle for him.
All right, so I want to talk about last night's Edmonton-Toronto game, okay? Because that was the game of the night, and I watched it, and it was fascinating. Now, I have watched Edmonton a lot this year. I have not watched Toronto as much.
Everybody in the States watched. I don't know. They didn't. All right, sorry.
No one could, and I don't know. This is one of those ridiculous things. Like this game should have been on TV, but
this should have been on the NBC game. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Instead, what did they say?
It was the Islanders Tampa.
Right, which was a blowout. But anyway. Anyway, so let's with the Islanders. And the Islanders just blew out somebody. I mean, they're really crazy scores. Really, like last night's Rangers St. Louis score is baffling. But even more so, Hitchcock coming out of the press conference just before we get to the other one. Hitchcock comes out of the press conference last night and says that this game was not because his team played poorly. They lost 5-0, and that for Hitchcock not to say that this is not because his team played poorly is really something. When you lose 5-0, he said this is because the Rangers are an elite team, and you have to be careful. They are that good. That was something because Ken Hitchcock. I don't ever he doesn't say stuff like that just out of the, so this has to make everybody look at the Rangers a little differently. Like this for Hitchcock to be
Well, I
saying
think you should, but I think you should still look at Jake Allen the same way, because a couple of goals were not his fault, but he never stops the bleeding. This is the problem I have with Jake Allen is in a game where not everything's
out.
Huh?
When you get shut out, you can't do that to the goalie. I agree with you, but they didn't.
No, but he could get shut out and lose 2-0. It didn't need to be 5-0. Not every shot was a perfect shot. I'm just saying this is a problem where if not everything's perfect, Jake Allen is not perfect, and that's still the problem with the Blues Stanley Cup hopes. That's all I'm saying.
Right. No, that's true. No, so getting back to the game, I really want to talk about, because we're going to we still have a good half hour, so we're pretty good. All right, so here we go. So despite all the delays in the beginning, and despite little sidetracks like this one I'm taking right now, we are with Edmonton, Toronto, looking at, like, in my opinion, what could be the Stanley Cup Finals in 4 or 5 years. I mean, we're looking at two teams that are that good, that have that much going for them. But it's fascinating how they are being run, and you saw it last night. You saw the two different coaching styles. You saw the completeness of, okay, now Connor McDavid, correct me if I'm wrong, and Austin Matthews are how far apart in age?
Less than a year.
Less than a year, right? 9 months, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So they're 9 months apart. Now, granted, McDavid played a whole year in the NHL last year, and so that gives, but not a whole year. He played like half a year because he was hurt.
I thought you were going to have a scoop and say that they were related somehow. I'm glad we didn't go there. Okay.
Yes. No, they look and act and talk, and they could not be more different. They have completely different attitudes about things, and they're neither is right or wrong. It's just totally, like, McDavid is very serious. I mean, Matthews is very serious about everything.
Yes.
McDavid is a lot more upbeat. But anyway, so
Matthews called him. McDavid called Matthews a good kid, but he's only 9 months older.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like there's not, and it always appears like there's this big difference. So watching the game last night, you see a team in Edmonton that has been trying to be good for a very long time and has not been good, and you see a team in Toronto that is trying to be bad for a very long time and is finally good, or half decent.
No.
What I'm saying is that there's different expectations on these teams. Okay, Edmonton cannot fail. Okay, like Edmonton.
Right.
When I put them in the playoffs, as earlier this year, as in the brilliant move that I did, I was putting them there because this new arena and their owner and the pressure that's on that team, this team cannot sit back and leave their starting player on the bench in the beginning of the game. Like, they cannot leave McDavid sitting on the sideline like the Maple Leafs can leave Matthews sitting on the sideline.
Right.
And you see that all throughout. Like, McDavid played 6 or 7 more minutes than Matthews last night. I mean, that. And then the craziest thing to me was, okay, the game was all Nazem Kadri. I mean, that was the Nazem Kadri show. I mean, he was phenomenal, I thought.
He was great.
He comes out, although the first minute of the game, okay, he takes down McDavid on what is an unbelievably blatant interference call that no one seemed to mention.
Right.
I mean, McDavid doesn't touch the puck. He's nowhere near it. Kadri dumps him, like, within the first 30 seconds of the game, and it sets a tone for the game. And
it set a Sean Avery kind of tone.
Right. Well, but it was such an illegal hit. I was shocked that it wasn't.
This is the thing. I mean, Nazem Kadri has written the book, at least early in his career, of how to neutralize Connor McDavid, and that is you have to get physical with him, and you have to get in his kitchen. You have to annoy him, and he did that effectively. I mean, Nazem Kadri is a very annoying player for some of his own fans and for all
the players are that way,
Right, but the thing is what he did, and he was very, very effective. He was the first star last night, and justifiably so. He hit McDavid really hard 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
He posed a little bit of an offensive threat against him, and McDavid's defensive game is basically his offense. He's a good positional player, but I don't think he's strong enough to be.
He's not strong enough yet.
Right, he's not strong enough to be a two-way player right now in this league. He relies on his speed and his reaction time and his anticipation to be able to be a good defensive player. And Kadri is an older player, more experienced, more physically mature, and he used that physical maturity and his experience to his advantage. Matthews, I thought, of the two, had the better night. Matthews had better chances. Mm-hmm. He was coming back on plays and covering for other players. he plays a more well-rounded game. He's just not going to be as much of an offensive catalyst as McDavid was. But
well, he can't be when he's playing. My point is, like, the one moment when that line, okay, yeah, not just Nylander, by the way, it's that line, okay, it's that I'm talking about that whole line. Like Matthews, it's not just Matthews. I mean, it's Matthews and Nylander that need more ice time because
and Zach Hyman, who plays a pretty big role in that.
Right,
team.
so they need more ice time because the only time last night he was obviously keeping him away from McDavid because Matthews is not the greatest defensive player either, right? So you're putting Kadri with him. You're gonna do that. The only time they matched them was when. The only time he matched him was the beginning of the third period when they put them both out there for the faceoff. They come out there, and Matthews and Nylander dominate the first 45 seconds of the third period, get like 4 or 5 glorious chances on goal, and never again go against.
But that was not the type of game that Babcock wanted to play. I talked to somebody before the game, and they were saying, "I'm so excited for this to be a 5-4 wide open game." And I said, Babcock is not going to let that happen. He doesn't want this to be a show. He wants this team to play the way he wants them to play. And if you put Matthews up against McDavid, it was going to be a track meet. That's why he put Nazem Kadri against McDavid and said, get in his kitchen. And he did. And that's the only way that I think Toronto would win that game. And
there were a couple things. Yeah, a couple of interesting things. First one was in one of the breaks when they were going over tape. I very rarely watch in-game stuff for out of market, but for some reason I was, and Dave Poulin was talking, former Flyer captain, and you know, he was a good coach for Notre Dame in the NCAA, really good coach. He was blown away at the stick strength of Austin Matthews. He was like, you know, that's something that you only used to see in veterans, and this is where, again, I wish some members of the media would brush up on their skills and realize this guy played in a men's league.
Yeah.
He's not your average rookie.
Right.
And most of the rookies don't go with that anymore. Look at Jacob Chikrin. It used to be all rookies were skinny. They're going to grow into their bodies. They're not strong enough, yada, yada, yada. That isn't the case anymore. It's really a case-by-case basis now.
No, and that's a great point. And I think Mikey made a great point too, because there's no question that this is the game that Babcock wanted to play. And you know that he wants to, and that he is, and what I'm trying to say is to me the fast. I don't think there's that big of a difference between these two teams as far as their abilities. I mean, but I think they're both very good. Edmonton, I think
that's damning for Edmonton then, because basically,
I think that Austin Matthews and Nylander are that good, and I think that they really that they have. You're right. I mean, Edmonton is ahead of them. Okay, I shouldn't say that there's not a big difference, but there's not as big of a difference as people think.
I think there's I'll disagree here. I think there's a dramatic difference right now because, in spite of the fact that we slayed them for the trade of Taylor Hall for Adam Larson, you know, Edmonton finally did what they needed to do. They've got Clefbaum, they've got Larson, they've got Chris Russell. Let me finish.
Yeah, go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, they it's not a great defense, but it's a reasonable defense. I think they need to upgrade dramatically if they want to be a real Stanley Cup contender, but at least it's passable now. And you're not having.
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. And Larson's been
Reinhart getting walked around on the blue.
Right. Now Larson's really been very strong, but what I will tell you is this: why I still will be critical of the Taylor Hall for Larson trade is what has happened to Ryan Nugent-Hopkins on that team. Which is that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, I watched him, you know, we talked about this at the World Cup, right? We watched him on that team, and we saw the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins that we know, if he was playing on another team, would be dynamic and fantastic. And as a top-line guy, could really be something special. He is the third-line player on this Edmonton team, right?
Second power play last night.
Right.
You know, which is strange, but center on the second power play and playing more of a responsible two-way game, and I believe he has 4 points
right. And he's doing now, but saying that, remember, they came this close to getting Seth Jones for him. Okay?
Right.
Now, that's where I go with the Taylor Hall and Larson trade. All right, if you were this close to getting Seth Jones for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, why couldn't you have gotten Larson for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins? You know, and why couldn't or somebody else like that would have done so? Like Larson, there's no question he's better than they needed him. We've always liked him. He was kind of misplayed in New Jersey. He was underrated. He's better than people in Edmonton thought he was going to be. But we kind of knew that because we've seen him a couple times. He's had a couple big games against the Flyers live that I've seen where I've been like, wow, Larson, he's a good player. But, when you look at what they gave up still, they gave up way too much, and especially when given the fact that Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is completely insignificant to them. Like,
I'm not arguing that point. I think what you're saying is completely valid. But what I'm saying between the comparisons of the two teams, at least Edmonton has a reasonable defense now, and
right. That's a great point.
In spite of the fact that I think they got robbed on the Hall deal and they gave away Yakupov for nothing, they have enough talent that they built up over the last couple of years that they're able to score and playing at the level. I'm not convinced that they're going to be a playoff team, but they're playing a lot better. Toronto is still in the midst of moving out players. I think, guys like Bozak and Van Riemsdyk in the next couple years will probably be moved out. The kids are getting experience. Their defense is horrific.
No, their defense is terrible, and their goaltending is not much better right now.
Well, Anderson played great last night.
He had a good game. He had one bad moment. That's it.
Do you think he played great last night? I mean, that's a lot to say.
Well, he had one bad moment. He did.
There were 2 posts that were hit that were like crazy. I mean, that would have been bad goals if either went in.
Edmonton had 46 shots, and he made a lot.
And there were, but like you said, it's interesting that they had 46 shots, and yet we can sit there and say McDavid had not much of a game, and that's actually true because McDavid really wasn't. It wasn't like he was stoning McDavid left and right.
I watched mainly that game, but I was watching the World Series and the Rangers too. And I will say that McDavid, I only saw him turn the corner and get away with it a couple of times.
Yeah, I remember.
There was one good adjustment that Toronto made in the game, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it because I was switching around. And that was Babcock started playing Morgan Riley more and Marinson less on that top pairing because he saw that it was eroding quickly.
Yeah, he switched it. He early in the game, or maybe it was throughout the game, it was Riley and Zaitsev. It was
right.
Marinson was on the bottom pairing with Connor Carrick where he really belongs.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like
that was a key. That really stopped.
I like Connor Carrick, but I thought he had a good game.
Yes, Connor Carrick can pass. He showed it. But that really did stymie the offense of Edmonton when they did that. That was at least a decent defensive pairing and they played him a lot.
But here's a warning sign for Edmonton, and I think Connor McDavid is a great player and is going to be great, barring any kind of injury problems throughout his career. But the thing is, right now, and what was illustrated by what happened last night with him being isolated on Kadri, a couple times when Kadri did some things after the whistle, McDavid didn't respond. He didn't slash back. He didn't do anything. He had to have Milan Lucic come back and talk to Kadri and threaten to squash him like a bug. And you know what? You've got to fight your own battles. Yeah. Sidney Crosby is wicked with his stick and will fight back. And that's the thing. That's going to take a couple years for McDavid.
Different era now. It's not the Wayne Gretzky.
But that also is not, and Crosby wasn't always this good either. I mean, Crosby's gotten better.
No. But he was always this chippy. I mean, game one.
He's a chippy player. Yeah, he's a different kind of player.
Game one, he was getting beat up by Darian Hatcher and had a bloody face and still scored a goal. And then shortly after that, he started fighting back at the rest of the league, if you remember.
Yeah, Crosby's a very unique case as far as superstars go. Like he is not.
And after the game, and he won't get criticized too much for it, but it was notable. McDavid was a little sour about how Kadri wasn't called for a penalty on this, and especially
you're right, and I saw that too, and I thought it was honestly it was a rare sign of immaturity that you saw from him, actually, like where he was completely frustrated. It wasn't that play itself, because that play itself there was nothing that really happened on that play that you could call, but it was a frustration of a night long of getting hooked at and pulled at, and I think especially the first one, and like I said, the first 30 seconds of the game, because that was just brutal, and there were some. And Kadri got away with it. And then Kadri got a call that really shouldn't have been called for, the dive.
As I said on Twitter during the game, there is the end result of the Greg Louganis type of diving that Kadri has done over the
He's got a reputation,
because he was actually penalized. He was actually interfered with on that call, but because of his
I want to throw this out for a second. I just texted that the Bruins were hoping that Condon would be put on waivers. They were waiting this out. And the Penguins were kind of played the Penguins bluff. The Penguins were saying that we have another place to put him, another team that'll take him. So we're not going to put him on waivers, and the Bruins were waiting, and this has been going on for like a week, and then finally it actually happened.
Can I go down the road here that Malcolm Subban, Did not play well in his. I know he's a young kid, but the Bruins may be starting to lose a little bit of confidence in him because the first time he came up was a showcase. He didn't do well. He comes up in this situation where they need him, where Rask is out, where Khudobin is out, and he doesn't do well again. That them being in on Condon is sort of an admission that they have no confidence in Malcolm Subban right now.
I think they're losing some confidence, but I think he's still there, so they have to have some confidence in him.
Well, I will share a rumor that I wasn't going to share yet involving Malcolm Subban, because I was going to write about it tomorrow, and I will write more about it tomorrow as well. Is that the Predators are very much after Malcolm Subban, and I'm not surprised by this at all. Like it fits with the Predators' pattern of what they like to do. They really like to build this kind of environment, and they feel as if Pekka Rinne is getting up there, and he's having issues, and they have some other goalies in their system that they like. But
UC Saros is pretty good.
Yeah, I know he's very good. But the feeling is, that Malcolm Subban, if you get him with PK and give the confidence to bring them together, that adds more to like what the kind of environment the Predators like to have. So I can see that very much happening.
So let's switch gears, though, because I think the biggest story right now in the NHL, or the emerging one, is the one we talked about a lot in the offseason, and it's a shame Dan's not here because he tried to push it off. But the Islanders, without Franz Nielsen and Kyle Okposo, are suffering.
Yeah.
Andrew Ladd has 1 point in 10 games, and he's a -3.
Yeah. That's a big story, and it was predictable because
it is predictable.
It's weird to me that sometimes when teams don't kind of do their homework on players, like Ladd has won in places. He won 2 Stanley Cups with 2 different teams. He's got history, but when you talk to people in Winnipeg last year about him at the trade deadline, no one could wait to get rid of him. I mean, it was like they said, yeah, he's really just lost it, and then he signs this huge contract on the island. I mean, it was hard to imagine that they didn't talk to somebody in Winnipeg.
We're in a different era now where, like, adding winners makes the difference, like what the Rangers did. And they went one step too far, too, in 94. They did, and traded too many players.
Yeah.
But, you don't add, like, a Brian Noonan anymore to your roster because he's won if he can't really do things for you on the ice. And Andrew Ladd's limited as to what he could actually do on the ice.
Right. I agree with that. And I think that, I would have kept Nielsen somehow and not.
That's the one that I was more upset about. But still, I kept saying about Okposo, he had 60 or 65 points, and Dan kept saying they were bad points. And I'm like, okay, but now who's going to score them? And that's what that was the crux of our argument.
You're right. We're going to get this points. Okposo had a reputation or whatever, for whatever reason, of being like a tough guy to be around. Like there's stuff that you hear like that they just, and I hate that as a gossipy way, but I know this also affected when I talked to Team USA about why he wasn't a part of that team. There was things that, so the Islanders, I think, sort of cut bait, but at the end of the day, okay, we were just talking about another player, Nazem Kadri, tough player to be around, the tough guy to be around, another guy that people can't stand. But you know what? If you produce, sometimes you have to deal with some of those players. And to me, that's where the Islanders were missing. Especially if you find somebody who does.
Mike Keenan was a tough coach to be around, but he won sometimes.
Yeah, and Claude Lemieux, no one could stand him on any. If you were not on his team, but he would always manage to win games for you. This is the Islanders just letting those 2 guys go, and also letting Matt Martin go too to the Leafs.
Yeah, that's another one too. Now, I didn't know how much that would affect him, but clearly that has affected him as well. It hasn't been a real positive for the Leafs, but it was a negative for the Islanders. There's no question. And
I actually think Matt Martin has been a positive for the Leafs.
Okay.
But simply because that if you hit somebody on that team, you're going to deal with Matt Martin one way or the other. And I think right
but
now,
he did more for the Islanders than the Leafs. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that fourth line unit of him, because Cizikas and Clutterbuck was very effective. But the fun thing is, even if the fourth line is productive right now in Toronto, it's not going to matter because Toronto is not going to be a playoff team for a year or two. But that camaraderie that he and that the team ethic that he brings, I think, is valuable and something a year or two down the line is going to be really beneficial for the Leafs.
Yeah.
By the way, Okposo is second on the Sabres with 7 points, and the Sabres have won I think it's 3 games in a row, and that's without Eichel,
That's
without Kane.
Yeah, and
he's going to get more points than Andrew Ladd. Yeah, he's going to get more points than Andrew Ladd. That was my basic point with Dan the whole time was, okay, you don't like Okposo, but you have to replace the points. They didn't do it.
And all this starts to lead to okay, and you can't help but lead to Tavares' happiness in the island.
Now it does sort of lead to that because
and as much as I know Tavares wants to stay an Islander and he's a great guy and that's his dream to stay. He loves it. He loves it there. This team is heading the wrong way. It's one thing for Stamkos to stay with Tampa, which is an obvious Stanley Cup contender for the next 5 years, right? Yeah. So this is a different situation, and until that, the Islanders would be smart to get that thing done now.
It's not only the composition of the team, it's what's going on with the building too, the ice problems,
issues, stuff like
all these things add up. Now obviously I've been in the complete opposite of what I was in terms of Stamkos in Toronto. I don't think there's a chance of Tavares going to Toronto, but if that situation in Brooklyn just decompensates, and if they made the wrong moves, and the goaltending is not that. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Halak and Grice, but they played well over the last while. But now they're trying to trade Halak. Their defense is pretty decent, but they have no wingers for Tavares. They have a lot of youngsters coming in. It's not exactly a settled situation with that team. It's not inconceivable that Tavares would bail on that in a year and a half. It's not
possible. I mean, and I don't want that to be the case because I think that I like him on the island, and I think that the Islanders could still get it together. And a lot of this is the culture thing that Garth Snow wants to create, right? He has this vision of the kind of players he wants around. So and he's always had that vision, and he's been the GM for a very long time. So when you put that into play, I mean, he's got to be one of the senior GMs in the NHL, right? And he's got to be one of the top. I mean, I don't think there are 10 guys who've been around longer than him, right? So when you think about it. He's been around a long time, so this is very much his team. These are his prospects. This is his whole deal. So he's responsible for everything that's going on in the island right now.
Yeah, except Jack Capriano is probably in the hottest seat in the league right now.
Right,
no, he definitely is.
That's his escape vehicle right there. If right now I believe they're 4-6. If they continue this for another 10 to 15 games, the first easy move is to fire Capuano. It's not going to be a reflexive trade to improve the roster. It's going to be firing Capuano and bringing in somebody else. Now I don't know who that would be.
That's the problem right now. There's not really a guy that you would necessarily. I mean, you have to go off the board a little bit to get somebody. There's not somebody that you really.
I mean, yeah, you might have to go off the board, but that's okay. I mean, there's always guys out there.
Okay. There is. Yeah, I think the Islanders are a big story. Jimmy Vesey's become a big story too. He can.
Yes, I really wish Dan was here.
Now we talked about this the other day. I'll mention it again because our show didn't really happen the other day. So when Vesey had his 5 goals, he only has 1 more goal. He had 5 goals in 8 games. The Rangers put up a list of guys who had that. Darren Turcotte was one of them. Daniel Gano was another one. The interesting thing about Daniel Gano was when I looked further, because I knew Daniel Gano did not have a good NHL career, he only scored 7 more goals in his career, 5 more that season. Wow. So a couple of years ago also, if you remember, the Rangers they were in sort of the same situation with Lindbergh, and he was looking like Oscar Lindbergh was looking like he was a Calder guy. I think he had 10 goals early on and then didn't end up with that many more for the rest of the season. So I'm not saying that's going to happen to Vesey. I'm just going to say he's getting a lot of them now. Things will turn around for him a little bit against him. That's just the way hockey goes. But he's playing great. He is playing like an NHL player, which is all we ever argued that he was. And the argument was really media-driven as to the hype. He didn't create the hype. He's not even creating the hype now. You don't hear boo out of Jimmy Vesey.
No, you don't. But what you should think about is maybe him as a future general manager. If he picked this team, he picked the right team to go to for him. I mean, that's the weird thing. I mean, that's not easy to do. I mean, just sit there and, decide. We kind of surprised us all with the team he picked, but he picked the right team. He picked the team that would give him the best opportunity to play in the right positions and with the right line mates. He's really kind of saving Rick Nash's career right now.
Yeah.
I mean, right now the Rangers are way ahead in terms of their place in terms of contending for a Stanley Cup than Toronto is, but I would just like to think what Vesey would be doing right now on the left wing with Matthews and Nylander, because that's where he would have been on the Leafs.
He'd be doing pretty good.
Yeah, he'd be doing pretty good. I think so.
It's hard to say, you know. He's really. It's just hard to say. There's so many variables with that. You know, you throw the third guy on a line with Nylander and Matthews is going to have to play a specific kind of role. You know, like he's the Michael Renberg, you know, of the Legion of Doom line. Like, you know, you have to have that right person. I mean, and that's not necessarily going to be someone that's going to score 5 goals like that.
No, and Zach Hyman's got 1 goal right now, but he's a very effective and annoying player to play against.
Right, and he's going into the corners, he's going to the net, and he's creating problems, and that's good for them. I mean, I was impressed with the Leafs last night again. Like to finish off that thought.
No, I was too. I liked what they did. I'm still not thrilled with Oscar Klefbom watching that game. I'll be honest. You know, I knew he was overpaid. That's fine. I'm moving on from that. But he's not even a top pairing defenseman. He's not.
Yeah, he struggles a lot.
I have to say I was a little disappointed in the performance of Puljujarvi. I didn't, you know, I mean.
I didn't notice him a lot. I'll agree with that.
Yeah,
he's in that weird. It's a weird team for him to go to. Like, it's a weird spot. Like, again, it's you know. Like,
one of the things that's a little strange that Todd McClellan is doing, Ak, and I'm a little surprised at. I'm not surprised that they put Lucic with McDavid, but he's basically got all of his eggs in one basket. He's got Lucic with McDavid and Eberle.
Yeah,
you should realistically have Eberle on a second line and have somebody, you know. I mean, I don't know who their second line right winger. If it's Zach Cassian, then I understand why they're putting Eberle.
Zach Cassian, I think. Yeah.
But you really need to spread out your offense a little bit and have Nugent Hopkins playing with more skill.
He needs a role right now. Like he's trade bait. You know, like
I think it would help out Leon Draisaitl a lot because I don't think Nugent Hopkins is enough to keep him afloat. He's got 6 points in 10 games, but he could be doing more. And I felt like Draisaitl could be doing more even in that game.
I put Draisaitl on that top line with Lucic and McDavid is what I would do. I mean, that's honestly who I put there because you need a skilled player to play with those guys. Because what's happening now is you're just expecting McDavid to do it by himself, sort of.
Right.
These guys are going to pick up garbage goals, but they're not going to pick up. I mean, Eberle is an incredibly skilled player and you know a gutsy player, but he's not. He still is a garbage goal player. Like that's
he'll score on any line you put him on too.
Oh yeah, and he'll score anywhere. You really don't need him with McDavid. It's not. It seems like a kind of wasted.
Draisaitl would make more sense because there would be a lot more flash there and a lot more skill there.
Yeah, you need skill, and you need somebody who can keep up. Like Draisaitl is so much faster. You know, I think that to keep up with McDavid is tough. Lucic isn't keeping up with him now, but he's not. No. But what he's doing is he's creating space for him, which is what they needed. So that's
right.
And, you know, and he is when someone hits him, you know, Lucic is, and they mention it every time you watch him, Lucic is right there and trying to knock Kadri's teeth out, you know, after Kadri bothers McDavid. So that's what's happening. So that's, you know, and that's fine. And that's a great role for him to play. You know, but that's, and the one other thing, this kind of is way off the board, I know, but we got to talk a little bit about the Blue Jackets who are playing pretty well. And I mean, they're not killing it right now, but they are slowly but surely having a better start than they've had in a long time. And, you know, this is a team that has consistently been very good the second 2/3 of the season. If they can get a half decent start off the first day, they suddenly become a real factor in the Metro division, which people aren't thinking of them as. They're not thinking of like the Blue Jackets as a team to beat in the Metro.
Well, but you did give John Tortorella another premier defenseman, and he is a defensive coach.
Yeah.
And that's going to help him. I mean, as long as he wasn't going to not give the kid a chance, Zach Werenski was going to be great. I mean, we all knew that.
Yeah, and he is so good. Like, he made a pass last night on one of the goals that was so, you know, skilled that just like crazy that this kid's a rookie. Like, it came back to him at the point in a normal shot where almost every rookie would throw the puck on net to see what happens. And instead he finds a guy in the slot. He passes to a guy in the slot, which is really, it was just bizarre. It's like, that was definitely not a shot. It was completely a pass. And I forget who it was, but someone turns around and scores. And, you know, Werenski makes the whole play. You know, he's
a point a game, and I still would put him ahead of VC in the Calder vote if I had to vote today, because it's so much harder to be a young point a game defenseman. It's not even funny.
Especially on a team like that. I mean, that's like
what a Calder race it's going to be.
It's a great Calder race. It's
I told you, I had 10 in there, and VC's not even in my preseason 10. I may have to reshuffle it, but I knew there was going to be like 13. It's crazy.
No, last year was amazing. This year is even better. I mean,
even better.
Well, the one thing that's because I know that, you know, there has not been a Maple Leaf win the Calder since 1965. But so,
change.
but the thing is, the fact that you have Marner, Nylander, Zaitsev is doing pretty well, and Matthews. I mean, I think the organization will say, Matthews, since he's the first pick overall. But if Nylander puts almost as many points, you're going to have votes being divided up from people who are in the NHL for all these Leafs, and it might allow somebody like Line or VC or Werenski to sneak in and win the Calder.
Could. I mean, I think that. I mean, I don't know. I mean, there used to be that if you had like an effective player that was a rookie, he was in the Calder race. And now you have to have like a superstar rookie to be in the Calder race. Like there's plenty of effective rookies out there. Like Travis Konechny is having a really good year, but he's not in the Calder race. It's like, he's that Travis Konechny.
He could be. I mean, at some point he could be. Jacob Chikrin's in the race as far as I'm concerned.
How about this? Austin Matthews led the NHL in scoring for most of the month of October, led the NHL in goals for the entire month of October.
Did they do the player of the month yet? Is he the player of the month?
And the rookie of the month was William Nylander because he had one more point.
But Matthews could end up being the player of the month, right? Did they go the player of the month yet?
No, player of the month was McDavid.
McDavid, right. So, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. He should have been. So it's really just an unbelievable amount of young talent in the NHL right now. It's fun to watch. And the other thing about the Blue Jackets, watching a little bit of that game this morning, I watched that in replay. What a great signing they made with Sam Gagner. Just throwing it out.
Well, it's a low risk signing, and
he's already got 3 goals. He scores last night to tie the game to send it to overtime. He's just and he's doing all the things that he did for the Flyers, which is score big times and make plays. I
mean, what was arguably the best free agent signing of the 2015-16 season? It wasn't any of the big deals. It was Lee Stempniak. It was a 1 year
right. Yes, exactly.
Tryout contract and they ended up getting a second round pick in a trade from the Bruins for Lee Stempniak. And so Ray Shero brings this guy in. Sometimes the best free agent signings are the guys who are under the radar, who get an opportunity to play.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, and Stempniak, but even Stempniak was at like $1.75 million or something like that. Gagner is $800,000.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's just.
But he's not a real top liner. Let's be real about that.
Top liner, but he's complete. He's a legitimate second line player, and
yes.
I think in the NHL for $800,000, I mean that's insane. I mean, just like having that kind of that for that kind of money. I mean, he just really, and he's got a time, and he's timely, and it's the skill
he's getting paid JF Berube money.
He's got more goals than Ryan Johansson has. Look at it that way.
No, I said that because of his agent, and of course our show didn't really come out the other day.
I never got into that whole thing, but.
And yes. So we did talk about that. So that's just letting him know I didn't forget.
We sent love and kisses and roses and chocolates to our good friend Mr. Walsh, who made a complete buffoon of himself on social media over the weekend.
Yes.
No, he didn't, because this is the thing. And I'll end with this, but I agree that you can sit there and say that in the internet culture and all that stuff, and he's like the ugly American, but he is and he is that because he does say obnoxious things, but he knows what he's doing exactly.
No, he does. But his guy's getting paid $875,000. There's goalies that would die to get paid $875,000, even if they're not playing.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it's the job of an agent to be an ass and to stick out like a sore thumb. And in that case, you're right. He did what he had to do for his client because he's got 2 clients on that team. One has not played basically for 2 years, and he wants him to go someplace and play. But to Russ's point, he's making almost $1 million. So shut up.
Right. No, but he proved last year. Walsh proved last year that it doesn't matter what he says. Right. Like because last year, remember he comes out with the Jonathan Drouin stuff, and that's just insane, and that goes on and on and on, right?
And we have to end the show on that hit that happened last night because Russ, you saw it, for those who didn't see, Calvin DeHaan, the Islanders defenseman, hit Jonathan Drouin along the boards. Yeah. I watched the video, and apparently there's not going to be any kind of review from the NHL offices. But the excuse that came out was DeHaan's a bigger player, Drouin's a smaller player. There was no intent there.
Yep.
But Russ, this is what I mean. It's like this is it's sort of prejudice against small players.
It is because at the end of the day, did DeHaan have to make the play that way to try and get the puck? The answer is no. The excuse I kept hearing is, well, but Drouin's a shorter guy. Okay, but then really every hit to the head of a shorter guy is going to be the shorter guy's fault because he's short. I mean, so you know, DeHaan can't leave his feet to hit him in the head because he's 7 inches taller. Like there's just, you have to have common sense here, and you have to look at it and say, he tried to take his head off. He did it a little bit too hard. He deserves to pay a penalty for that.
Right. I don't know. I've always been up. I've been up around on this so many times over the years because this is not a new thing.
But now we know more about headshots. That's the only reason I'm bringing this up.
It's not a new thing that we have that smaller players end up in this situation and that bigger. You know, I mean, I remember Lindros used to fall under all kinds of criticism all the time for hitting players. And Scott Stevens for hitting players, and they were just but they were hitting players that were smaller than them, and
But most of the league was smaller than them too.
Right. So therefore, whenever he hit somebody, it was a penalty or what have you. But I think that it's tough. I think it's a tough. I mean, you are prejudiced against the bigger players if you do it that way. So it's really, is this prejudice against anyone? It really just has to come down. I think it has to come down to, like you said, Russ, intent and whether or not you needed to do it, and whether or not it was over the line. That's not to say, that it was right.
I mean, Jonathan Drouin is not the strongest hockey player.
It should have been a suspension. I didn't think it was. I thought it was.
Well, he deserves a fine. Again, Drouin's not the strongest hockey player. It didn't take that to get him away from the puck. That's really all my point is.
Oh, I don't know about that. I mean, Drouin's pretty crafty with the puck. I mean, you gotta. And
it was up at the blue line. We're not even talking about this being anywhere near the net. Anywhere.
That's true, but he is not easy to get off the puck, and he also.
I'm not saying he's weakling, but I'm just saying compared to a guy like DeHaan, there's other ways he can do it, and this was way up by the blue line. And if this was against the boards, DeHaan would have paid that price already. But because it wasn't against the boards, then all of a sudden we're not looking at that board shaking with the guy's head, and it's not as big a deal.
Well, there was a pretty good hit by a Maple Leaf player last night too. Who the Maple Leaf guy?
Well, I mean, I saw Kadri sits on McDavid. I don't.
No. The Russian.
Is that
Kalashnikov?
Yeah.
Kalashnikov. Okay.
Yeah, he got penalized for a head.
Oh, for the hit to the head. Yes. I mean, that wasn't looked at today. I don't know. I was kind of surprised it wasn't. No, I mean, I know there was a 2-minute minor. It didn't sound to me like it was anything of a dangerous nature, but any hit to the head, I guess, is. Maybe I'm being an apologist for the Leafs, but
I mean, I'm not sure. I saw it and I thought it was a good call. I didn't think it was a bad call. Look, these days I'm gonna go on. Hey, if there's a hit to the head and there's intent there, you got to do something about it, because again, you don't want your players continually taking headshots. You just don't.
Yep, that's all the time we have for today, folks. I'm going to be looking into this. I'm curious a little bit.
I think we can download this show and then upload it to your channel, Ak. I think
we're going to do that. We're going to try that at least. And thanks all for the problems. We're going to try again tomorrow. At some point I'm going to try to find out what's going on with the other channel.
Yeah, I do want to mention, because I looked it up, DeHaan got an interference call.
Wow, okay.
So if you're going to get, and of course Callahan jumped in and fought him. So, but if you're going to get an interference call, it kind of proves my point, I think.
Quick prediction, Ak. We know that you don't like baseball, so I'll.
Oh yeah, let's talk about. No, tonight. I mean, I like this. I mean, this is hard to not like, right? I mean, this is.
Yeah.
So who do you think?
Cubs are going to win tonight. I do.
Russ?
I'm going with the Indians, even though Kluber's on a day early rest. Kluber has been Koufax-like for the entire playoffs. He's got the lowest ERA. I'm going Corey Kluber and the Klubernator.
Yeah, I'm going Cubs, and I want to see video of Bill Murray probably dousing himself with a keg of beer if they're up by 3 or 4 runs in the 9th inning.
Bill Murray's 7th inning stretch was the greatest. People should watch that.
That was really hilarious. That was
hilarious. And the fact that he gave a lifelong Cubs fan a Game 6 ticket, just gave it to her, and she sat next to him for the game, makes him awesome. He was always awesome anyhow.
It's a statement of how awesome he is, because they were showing him he flipped caps with a Indians fan in the crowd and took a picture with the guy. And if he was like Mr. Cub fan and not and maybe a little bit jerkish or a star, he wouldn't have done that. But he was doing that. He's enjoying it, and I'm rooting for the Cubs because they haven't won since 1908.
Yeah, I know, and it's all it's funny. I mean, it's such an incredible market.
Like I said at the beginning, somebody has to win.
Yeah, someone's going to win this one, and it feels as if at this point. Last night's game was the kind of game that made you wonder if there's something destiny waiting here.
I don't know. I'm not thinking that yet, but I think for this World Series only, there should be a participation trophy because it was so hard just for these two teams to get there, and you don't know if you're going to make it back. Like, I just feel bad for the fan base that's going to lose. I feel bad for them.
Oh yeah, I know, it sucks. I mean, I've been to Game 7s of Stanley Cup Finals. I mean, I was in the Vancouver one that everyone will forget. It's like
well, that one I enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean that was so that there's nothing worse than losing a Game 7 at home.
Yeah,
that is the one thing I will say. Like if you leave that building tonight, if you're a Cleveland Indians fan and you do lose that game tonight, that is a really horrible feeling. I mean,
I was looking forward to covering a Game 7, but Tuukka Rask gave up like 3 goals in 30 seconds or whatever it was.
You were close. I know. All right, guys, remember we'll be back tomorrow. And I think, it looks like our technical issues might be behind us, although we don't know yet because we haven't really stopped the show.
Say that.
Knock on wood. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow. We will.